Welcome to Doc NYC and the special Q&A for the human factor. I'm Tom Powers, the festival's artistic director. I'm pleased to have with me the film's director, Dror Moreh, who's joining us from Berlin, Germany. Dror is best known for his film The Gatekeepers that was nominated for an Academy Award a few years ago. Dror, let me ask, what caused you to focus on this historical period in the human factor?
So first of all, it's very intimate for me because I come from Israel, so it's something of life. My life are incorporated with that. The second thing is that I had an opportunity to speak with really the peacemakers, the negotiators, the American negotiators who were responsible for trying to achieve this gigantic task of creating peace between Israel and its foes, the Arab world. So that was the motivation, basically, to try to reach an understanding in what happened inside those rooms, which normally when we are getting a story, we get the photo ops outside, what happened outside, and for me it was very interesting to understand from them what happened inside the room, the places where we have not been, we were not exposed to what happened inside those rooms.
So some of these players like Dennis Ross have written their own books about this period. When you were coming to these interviews, how much were you looking for new material and how much were you just trying to distill things into a cinematic form that were already on the record?
For me, it was all from start over again to know from scratches the really stories, and you know me, I do a long interviews, so I can tell you that with Dennis Ross, for example, I did a 35 hours consecutive interviews with each one of them more than 10 hours interview, and in that period I learned a lot about what happened inside the room. But what emerged from that was the human factor, was the fact that the most important issue in that was the human relationship between the characters that they were describing, Rabin and Arafat, Bibi and Arafat, Clinton and Bibi and Arafat, and Barack, all of that, the human interaction between them came as the foremost something that was very crucial to them to understand each other. How did they build the relationship between them, and how this human factor affected them in those meetings that they described. So for me, this was something that came up from the beginning. And then, I had the stories and I had to think, how will I dramatize that visually? Because normally you don't have those visuals that can accompany those amazing stories that were told to me during the interviews. And I discovered something that nobody had seen before, which is the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. And apparently, the President of the United States has with him two or three photographers at any given day or time, and they are photographing all the time. So Tom, I can remember myself in the beginning. I will give you an example. There was a story when Clinton landed in Israel and he wanted to, after the assassination of Rabin, he hugged Peres warmly. And that kind of was an amazing story that I was told, or what Rabin was, Clinton with Arafat inside the room. And I remember asking, I saw some really nice still photos, and I asked, where are those photos coming from? And they told me they are coming from the presidential library. I asked, can you bring me all the photos? Can I see and I remember waiting, and the FOIA was approved, and I'm seeing the contact sheets of those photos. And all those moments that were told to me were documented in those photos. And it was amazing because you are, in a way, they tell the story behind the scene, and you have the opportunity to see those amazing moments in front of you through those photos.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say that I think the last 4 years of the American presidency hasn't been as well documented by the photographers, but that's another story. I want to go back to this idea that you're doing, these long 10-hour sessions of interviews. Maybe it helps that you're interviewing people who are used to being in negotiating rooms for 10 hours, but tell me more about what that's like. I was recently interviewed for a documentary that took 2 hours long. At the end of 2 hours, I was like exhausted, tired of being under, a light, hungry, uh, feeling like I probably said something the wrong way. And so, what is talk to me about the mentality of your interview process, because we saw it in the gatekeepers too, that you're able to draw things out of people that a lot of other journalists don't get.
I just want to recap on what you said about the last 4 years, and you're absolutely right. What you see, and again, it comes to the human factor. You see the lack of human factor in the administration that is currently operating. It's more a business-like kind of operation. It's a photo op of reality TV, and not really those kind of really understanding what diplomacy is all about, how you deeply need to understand the other side, and how you have to be engaged in what I call the human factor. Look, I am definitely everything that I do. I'm very, very interested in what I'm doing. So I have a very thorough research, and I would say those negotiators that I spoke, and I precisely decided to go only for the American negotiators because I didn't want politicians inside. I wanted those professionals, the point of view of those professionals who dealt with that, who this was their life mission. And as you can describe life mission, your life mission is to promote docs all over the world. I assume that if I will do a movie about you, we can spend hours and hours or tens of hours speaking about documentaries and your passion to documentaries. Their passion was to create peace between Israel and the Arab world. This is what they did. This is what they did for 10, 15, 20 years. And this was their life mission. I would say the crusade that they took on their shoulder. So they are, what was amazing is how they really remember every single small detail in moments. Amazing, really, memory that they can share with us of those amazing moments that were happening in front of their eyes. So it wasn't a problem for them to speak. Believe me, I could speak with each one of them more. And since, as I said, I'm interested. By the way, the rough cut of their first rough cut of the movie was 36 hours. I could, I could watch that says 36 hours easily, no problem.
Well, I'm sure there are other people who have who share that intense focus. So maybe there will be an opportunity for you to deploy that rough cut someday. Um, the you just said a moment ago this contrast between the current U.S. administration and the period that you're talking about. When I watch your movie, it feels like the terms of debate are seem like they're from a distant time from today. I wonder what you think there is to be learned from this period, and are there ways for those lessons to even be applied today, since the politics have shifted so dramatically?
I think at the end, Tom, it's about whether you are serious in what you do or not. And I think if you are serious in what you do, an American administration should be serious because America is the only one global superpower, at least it was until 4 years ago. And when America tries to do something, it better do it seriously. And I think if you are looking for a photo op, or I mean, the peace process between North Korea and President Trump, or it's a joke. You can see that it's a joke. You can see that it's not serious. You can see that there were not really serious diplomat effort in achieving something, understanding the other side. So I mean, you need to be serious. Diplomacy is a very serious tool, and you need professional diplomats to do that work. And we don't have that now. And the world looks like that because of that. I mean, if America will not lead as it didn't do in the last 4 years under the Trump administration, you see everybody's aware of where the world is going. And especially when you reach a huge problem like the Israeli Arab or the Israeli Palestinian or the Israeli Syrian peace process, you cannot solve it by just words. You need to, I mean, the Clinton administration did a gigantic effort. I don't think that there was another effort which can be equivalent to the attempt of the American administration throughout the years to resolve the Israeli-Arab conflict. They failed. At the end, they failed. We are still not, we don't have peace now. But even with that effort, they failed. So if someone thinks that he can do it through Twitter, he better have another thinking in another way.
You know, um, I mean, watching this, it's so striking what an enormous role the United States is playing at that time, and um, if you take a few steps back, it feels a little strange that people from the other side of the world in the United States are playing this outsized role in trying to negotiate peace in a place where they don't live. Maybe they have some connections there, maybe they don't. Um, you know, does that strike you as strange that that the United States is playing such a dominant role here?
No, I think, look, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, America remained the only global superpower. Until the fall of the Berlin, we were living in a kind of Cold War between Russia and America, and everything was bound to that kind of equation. After that, the world changed. And I think rightfully, America tried to dissolve places where she had interests and where could be a source of conflicts. One of that was the Middle East, which plays a key role in America's strategic goals because of the oil, because of a lot of factors inside. That's why America tried to resolve those problems. And regrettably, we are still, I mean, today we are in a worse situation than when America started, regrettably. But I mean, I think America should not stop trying to mediate, because we see when there is no power like that who's trying to create a better world for all of us, and that's the power of diplomacy, which we lack so much now. The world is getting worse. The world that we live in now, and you have little kid, I have kids, we basically give them a much worse world than we inherited. And that's due to a lot of reasons. One of them is that diplomacy do not really, in the last years, diplomacy do not function. Each superpower has his own goal, it has his own agenda. And when there is no unifying force, and I think at the end, if I may go back to the human factor, that at the end of the day, humanity and us as human beings living on this planet, we should aspire to create a better world for the generation to come. Part of that is negotiating peace in places where there are conflict. And part of that is global leadership, which America can use very, very eloquent, very, very good, because it is the only global superpower today that can do that. We lack that. I mean, the world lacks that in the last years. And I hope that come November, after November 3rd or after January 20th, we will have another way to look at the world through American prism.
Yes, well, you and I are recording this about 10 days before November 3rd. People watching this will know what comes afterwards. Uh, we will have to wait and see. Um, as I wrap this up, it's been several years since people saw your film, The Gatekeepers. You've been working on this and other projects simultaneously. Can you give us a taste of other things that you have coming up?
I hope that next year I will be able to deliver the new film, which we'll call In the Corridors of Power, which deals with how America, after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, dealt with the promise of never again. And it is a huge project, which I interviewed all the secretaries of state, almost all the national security advisor, secretaries of defense, close advisors of all the president during this last 25, 30 years. And it really comes to the question why the promise of never again was not fulfilled in so many cases and from within the corridors of power. So this is one project which I am finishing soon. Another project is another 35 hours interview, which I did with the head of the Mossad, Israeli Mossad, about his life. Will come hopefully 2022. Very busy.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to these. We're really proud to show this preview of The Human Factor at Doc NYC. The film is going to be released early next year from Sony Pictures Classics in the United States. Hope you can spread the word if you enjoyed the film to your friends when it comes out. Dror, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you again for being here.
Same here, Tom. Thank you very, very much.